Hey, it's Ethan from Zimmer Labs, and this is a Corran horn, MHS style, custom-made Neopixel Proffieboard, cross between a Masterpiece and a Titan class lightsaber that I just finished up for Joshua. Joshua, let me know what you think, and if you have any modifications, additions, subtractions you want to make, just let me know after you've had a chance to check the video out. But I'm pretty happy with how this came out. It is, as I said, it's an MHS hilt, so all these parts are all semi-universal and mix and matchable, and that means that you can kind of build your own, design or style of lightsaber from any of the different parts that you see here and hundreds of others. And these all came from the custom saber shop, so that's where you would go to check that stuff out. And it's a pretty cool idea. I don't do a lot of work on MHS stuff because it's just not something I ever really got into, and it's not something that I have a whole lot of requests for. But it is a really cool idea because, you can kind of create your own hilt, make a funky something that you just came up with yourself, or if you're trying to put something together to look kind of similar to an existing hilt. Like, for example, this is intended to be a Corran horn hilt, and it really does have some real Corran horn aspect to it, especially down here in the grip section. But it's funky and it's cool, and you can kind of build your own and make your own style. Just so you guys can see, as an example, this is another part that Joshua had originally sent me, and it was going to go right here in the middle, but because of the internal diameter of this piece being much thinner than the rest of the hilt, we opted to substitute this standard black piece that's the same width, so rather than have a skinnier bit right in the middle, because using the skinnier bit would have sacrificed our options as far as the chassis and the internal structure goes. So we switched it to this one, but it's just an example of one of the other parts you can pick. But let's jump into it. The way I have it set up is, obviously, as you can see, is a cobalt clip down here for a belt clip, double riveted on. You can see the backs of the rivets inside there. Used a short or medium length aluminum rivets on this guy, and then as soon as you take the pommel off, you have access to recharge port right here, which is also a twist to activate kill key, which means you don't have to take that out, you just have to spin it around to the activation point. And then you also have access to your SD and USB right here. So everything you need to gain access to use the saber is just handy dandy right there at the bottom. And then you can just pop the pommel back on, screw it tight, and you're good to go. Now we also did buttons on the clamp section here, and the way I did those is removable bubble strip that I used some self-leveling laminate to fill the back in. That makes it work a lot better as a button pusher. Then we did a button chassis, I guess you'd call this, and this guy is removable. It's on header pins, as you can see right here, with auxiliary switch and your main power switch here, and those mate to, hopefully you guys can see that, the other half of the header pins are right there. And I put an oval hole right through the hilt so that the header pins could connect right through there. So the idea here is to make this a modular and removable chassis, and in order to do that you have to have buttons that can be disconnected. Buttons that can be disconnected from the hilt. And excuse the false starts here. What we have on this guy is motion activated gestures, and I'm not used to those, so that's why it keeps turning on. I apologize. Just make sure I got that in right. Okay, so that's as easy as that. You just kind of pop it off and put it back in there and then tighten the clamp. But before you tighten the clamp, you want to slide the bubble strip back in there. Just want to kind of push down on the button chassis when you slide this in so that the bubble strip can slide back into place over the buttons. And then once you have it in place, you just want to push them to feel for the button action and see if it's in a good location and the buttons work as you want them to. And if not, then you loosen the clamp lever, kind of push down, and then retighten the clamp lever, and that kind of resituates this chassis that's underneath here. And now we've got good action on both buttons. That's really all you have to do for that. Up top on this guy, I did a standard 832 hex head set screw for blade retention. Custom saber shop pogo pin blade connector. Custom made Graflex style blade plug that is sanded for diffusing with built-in onboard pogo pixels inside here, and an extra thick section of blade tube around it to give it a lot of light shine through. And I think it works really well. Lots of nice light shine through on that guy. Now, before I get into the gestures and the motion control, let's finish going over the lightsaber. Did a 7/8 inch Neopixel blade with a 1-inch adapter, and that guy just simply slides in there, and a quick twist to set it in place. It's a good snug fit. But before we get to the blades, the hilt unscrews in a few places, but it either unscrews right here at the clamp or right here. For the crystal reveal, you want to unscrew here at the where the black and the gray meet. Let's put the pommel back on. Let's turn it on first. And what I did was I used the Goth 3 Designs Graflex 2.0 Master Chassis for this guy because it's a perfect fit. And it is ideal for the setup of this hilt because if you unscrew it right here, everything that's remaining, that's sticking out, is all metal, polished stainless steel, brass, quartz crystals are hanging out right there. Absolutely gorgeous crystals on this. As you guys can see, there's dual crystals. I did some modification to some of these chassis parts so that there was additional room inside here in order to get bigger, wider, longer crystals and to get 2 crystals. So we've got 2/3 to 3/4 inch, 1/2 inch wide crystal point down here, and then 1/2 inch wide, 3/4 inch long crystal point up there. They're kind of facing in at each other. And they're really well illuminated. Absolutely gorgeous. And then up top, I did some pixel accents, 4 different sections that are going in a turbine color cycle fashion here. They ramp up and go from off to white to whatever the blade color is. Looks really cool. So basically the entire chassis is just kicking out light. As soon as you take the bottom section of the hilt off, the bottom half off, everything is just blowing light out. Like both crystals and then this whole top section. Totally illuminated. Neopixels everywhere. And also really good sound. This chassis is definitely capable of taking a 28mm premium bass speaker, not just a skinny 28mm speaker, which is what the instructions say it's supposed to take. But I've never had a problem putting a premium bass speaker in one of these. So that's what's in there. And then I think probably what I'm most happy about with this guy, go ahead and unscrew this little small black middle section here. Yes, it's got very long threads. Take this guy off. I'm going to pop the clamp lever, pull the switch assembly out, and now I can slide the entire chassis right out. So it's fully modular, fully removable. I just finished putting it together, so it's still got a bit of dust going on inside of it, or sanding leftovers. I will clean that up before I send it out, Josh, but this guy I'm very happy with. This is, like I said, it's the Goth3 Designs master chassis for the Graphics 2.0, but heavily modified here for the crystals, and then this whole front end is custom done and modified. The speaker section is still standard and still the same, but I, as you can see, created a little door cover for this wire area so you don't see any of the wires. And then up here, this is where your battery hangs out, and rather than doing an 18650, which is what this chassis was designed for, I did a 26800, one of these guys. One of these big monsters. So this is a just about a 7,000 milliamp hour capacity and 30 amp discharge rate monster battery. So this guy's got a ton of current capabilities and also a really great runtime capacity. This saber is gonna run on a full charge. It's gonna go all day, absolutely without a problem whatsoever. And then up top, this is a, like I said, a custom saber shop Neopixel blade connector with one of the custom saber shop MHS chassis housing type things, which incidentally fits just perfect over the top of the 26800 battery. And then this is just a custom centerpiece tube that I made to, to connect everything up and to protect and cover over the battery. But the battery is just here underneath that, and everything does just kind of pop apart if you need to get access to it. The only thing that is semi-permanent here is the header pin section for the switch connector. Obviously this is where the switches connect up, like so. And all I did was do a small oval hole and put those in there, ran all the wires, and then refilled and sanded with epoxy, and then painted the entire thing with, I don't know, probably 8 or 9 coats of some matte black paint, and sanded it all to give it a nice smooth finish, just so that it looks nice and continuous and clean. But the overall capacity and battery size on this puppy is gonna run all day. It's gonna be mega hyper bright no matter what blade you put in this guy, and it's gonna handle anything you throw at it as far as discharge rate, because it's a 30 amp continuous rating on it, so it can handle just about anything. Now, as far as reassembling, the easiest way to do it is to pop the blade out, pop the blade out, take the chassis, line up the header pins with the hole underneath the clamp card here. I just push it straight up in all the way until it doesn't go any further, and making sure that the header pins line up with the middle of that oval. As long as it lines up where it should be there, then you're good. And then at that point you can simply take the switch assembly, pop it back in. You don't want to put a lot of force on it. When it's in the right location, it will just slide right in. You won't have to force it. If you force it, you could bend these little header pins, and you don't want to bend them because then you have to bend them back and they might break, and then, you know, you have to build a new one. So obviously, just like I said, doesn't need any force. They line up just perfectly, and that's it. Perfect. All lined up just like that. You can put the bubble card back in, twist and relock the clamp, and check the buttons for action. Both are working exactly the way you want them to. And then simply screw this black section back on and screw the bottom half of the hilt back on over that. Pretty easy, pretty quick reassembly process. And we just turn it back on with the kill key. Test everything out, make sure everything is working because it's lined up. Yeah. Looking good. So let's pop the blade in. Run through the blade array so you can see, Josh, what I did on those. There's about 10 to 12 blades on this guy, and I did my best to create a silver blade to make it Corran horn-esque, and then I threw some other colors on there too and some other animations, but it's tricky to get a silver blade. The first one is a Corran horn sound font that I customized to be smooth swing. Got a nice localized lockup in the middle. Drag tip. Nice slow ignition and retraction. And that's a white and blue audio flicker blade to get the silver effect. And it really is a pretty good silver. It's hard to do silver with Neopixels. Because, you know, just doing white with Neopixels is hard to do because the white that Neopixels make is kind of lame. You know, if you just do white, it's not going to look all that good. So you have to kind of get creative. The next up, this is a cool and cooler audio flicker blade, and by cool and cooler I mean those are just custom colors that I created in the color definition file on the Proffieboard, and what they are is just RGB 2525 255 and RGB 5050 255. So for those of you guys who care? But this is also an audio flicker blade and also really a good silver. Localized lockup again. Blade drag tip. Good sound font on this guy. This is, I think this is an Anakin font. Angry, something about angry. I forget which one exactly, but it's a good font. Next up, we've got. This is just a cool color blade, and that is the 2525 255 color. And I think this is Bespin 2, I believe. Next up, we've got cooler blade with a on-spark white flash on ignition into the silver blade. And this does look really good and silvery, but I personally like the audio flicker version of it better. Check out the color and the reflection here. That's really the best representation of what it looks like in person. We'll jump back a couple. And this is the audio flicker version of that same one. I guess it does look a tiny bit more blue, but in real life, it's hard to get it just right on camera and on TV, as the gamma is never quite right, but it is definitely pretty good silver. And the next up is my electricity blade, which also comes across pretty silver, so I figured why not. Nice localized lockup in magenta, yellow, and red. Magenta drag tip. This is a cool, or maybe cooler, 2525 255 turbine blade. So it goes from yellow to white to cooler in about 300 or 400 milliseconds. And the sound font's just perfect for it. Love how that matches up. Next up, we've got cool and cooler Fireblade. The really aggressive localized lockup that's super bright white, magenta, and red. Nice drag tip. And then just a standard purple blade. Nice bright green blade. Then a almost blue blade. This is like kind of like a really intensely cold white color, really, but it comes across as kind of a halfway between silver and blue. And this guy is either running Bespin or it might be my Fin sound font. And this is a white-yellow audio flicker blade, just because. Really like this blade color. Nice red Vader-esque blade with Swarm sound font. And a standard red Fireblade. Great blaster block effect on this one. It's got K-Sith Crossguard 3.0, version 3, whatever, sound font, which is also excellent. Really kick-ass localized lockup, but it's, you know, it's barely localized because it's so huge and aggressive. It kind of goes up and down on the blade as it goes, but it's super bright and it's super intense. And I think then we're back to the beginning. Yeah, back to the initial blade. Now, the next thing that's kind of cool about this, and something that Joshua wanted me to put on it, was gesture motion controls. So this guy can be activated just by a quick swing. And then to turn it off, you just do it, give it a quick twist. The only problem with that is that it doesn't take a whole lot to make it turn on. Like, you can't walk around quickly with it in your hand, because if you do, well, maybe you can. I guess you probably could. That's kind of cool. I mean, I tweaked the settings the best I could to get it to be not too sensitive, but swing activate, twist off, and it works really well. And obviously credit for that goes to all the guys on the open source, you know, on the forums and that do all the open source work. But Fernando Derosa, I think, is the main brainchild behind the gesture controls. So Fernando, great job. Really cool idea. Obviously Frederick for all his support and everything he does. Absolutely love that guy. But really just a good overall control. You also get your standard control of power button, auxiliary button, but you get the swing to activate. But it also times out. So if you leave it alone for too long, then you have to power button it on, and then once you've done that, the gestures come back. But very cool. It's a nice idea, and I don't know that I would use it on all my lightsabers, but certainly some. And if you're doing a cosplay or like an event or a show or something where you're actually going to have like a battle, just, you know, whipping it out to turn it on is going to be, it's just going to make life easier. Let's see. I guess that's about it for this guy. Josh, like I said, any questions? Don't hesitate to hit me up and ask. If I forgot anything, let me know. I think I've covered all the bases. I just love this chassis. It's such a versatile chassis. I've used it in any number of different hilts, not just the Graflex 2.0, but obviously MHS hilts. I've used it in Vader Return of the Jedi. I've used it in my multi-master that fits into multiple hilts. Jesus, I've used it in a standard vintage Graflex. I've used it in, what else? There's another one too. But it's a great chassis because it's really got a good classic look to it. It's a ton of metal. It's not super expensive compared to some of the other premium masterpiece level chassis that are out there. It's kind of a bargain as far as that goes. Especially if you do the parts in, you know, unfinished brass or stainless steel, and then you do the work yourself to polish them up. If you do them in rhodium and gold, well, it's going to be pretty expensive, but still not as bad as some chassis are that are all, you know, masterpiece level and all metal, because they get, you know, they can get upwards of $1,500 for just the chassis parts, and sometimes even more than that. So this is a great chassis, super versatile, and can be used for a ton of stuff and customize it to get the dual crystals going on and everything in here. So it's, you know, it's a great little chassis. I guess that's about it. So thank you guys as always for watching. Stay tuned. I've got a pair of Ahsokas coming up next, then a Metal Master with the spinning magnetic plasma gate, done in a genuine vintage mint condition Fulmer Graflex, which is going to be really, really a lot of fun to build. And what else? A couple other ones. But yeah, stay tuned as always.